P.C. Richard and Son. You know P.C. Richard and Son?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. You're not missing anything.
What is it?
It's an electronics store. One person hated our show.
Are you looking this up? I thought you weren't looking things up.
I saw one thing.
I know. That really hurt my feelings.
It's fine. There's plenty of people. I mean, think about it. People hate Eric's show all the time.
Yeah. I listen back and I am laughing too much.
What, on our show?
Yeah.
Nah. You think so?
Maybe.
I'm pretty aware of that stuff. I don't think that you're laughing too much. Maybe I'm not laughing enough. Maybe you feel abandoned.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem.
I mean, it sounds fine now, though, right? It's not glitching anymore.
No, it's not. Let's record today's without the video. You don't need to see my face today.
We don't need to see it?
She not cute.
Beautiful.
I'm all puffy-eyed.
Puffy-eyed and shitty-voiced.
Yep. Yep, that's today. Puffy-eyed and shitty-voiced. And in pajamas.
I hate this show.
It deserves a 1/4 of a star.
I didn't see that. Is that something that's been posted on iTunes?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even see that.
Oh, you weren't talking about the iTunes review?
No.
Oh, man.
I didn't.
There's somebody else that hates it?
Yeah, there was someone on Facebook who hates it.
What? Where are they?
Could be the same person for all we know.
That's true.
So what's the lead in for the topic again? I know the topic, but there was a specific event.
Well, I don't know exactly what to call it. It's not sexism. It's more like how men and women deal with sex and how it's different. Sex.
But wasn't there some kind of current event that triggered this for you?
Yes. Yeah. So, one, we talked about things on the doctrine this week, the difference between how men talk about women and how women talk about men. And then Michelle, my friend Michelle, who owns Hoff Sauce Company, there's a story there. And so I thought, this is interesting, and maybe you would have some thoughts. And does sound effects for the show. Ay, papi. Wasn't there a sound in porn that you really hated?
There was just one I would mock. It was,
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Be graceful in your sex. Be classy. Have some manners. Try not to grunt overbearingly. Keep it under control. Give a few grunts, I think, to express your pleasure. I do like the idea of someone being very formal about it while they're having sex and just saying flat out.
Yes. Just saying yes.
Yes. I am really enjoying my time inside of you.
Yes. My goodness, do you feel lovely?
That'd be a nice way to go about it.
Yeah. I wonder, you know how in those documentaries about the Civil War, like those Ken Burn documentaries, there are those letters that people are writing from the front lines, and they're 16 years old. They snuck into the war. But they're writing these letters back home to dearest Martha. Mm-hmm. Your name rings true in my ears most days. This beautiful poetic. I wonder if they made love in the same way. They're instead of yeah, fucking your ass. It's Martha, your mucous membranes. No, they wouldn't say that.
I wish they would say that.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk in great detail about your mucous membranes.
We should maybe address my mucous membranes because my voice is going.
It is going. You think it's going to collapse in the middle?
I don't know. I'm drinking some throat coat tea.
Throat coat?
Throat coat.
That is disgusting.
There's a quote on the back of the little tag on the tea that says, "He who wants a rose must respect the thorn," which I thought was very nice.
Yeah. There's no reason to be on the back of a product of any sort.
Why not?
Because.
Makes me feel empowered as a woman. It's a Persian proverb.
Yeah, that's fine. But what they're ultimately doing is they're selling you a product is what they're doing. And then they're playing it off as being these thoughtful, poetic creatures. No, you want my money. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I don't need you to fool me. It's like the Gillette thing that's blowing people's minds. Whether or not, I don't understand why people are offended by it. But that aside, the people who are on board with it, also, it's Gillette. Their goal is to make money, and what they're doing now is monetizing the social justice movement. They don't give a shit. They think that right now this is a good move for them so they can make more money. And the people were applauding, like, oh, Gillette, thank you.
Well, that kind of ties into our topic today. Welcome to One Topic. I'm Autumn Fisher.
And I'm Greg Russ.
And we're going to try and stay on one topic. And our one topic today is basically the ideas of sex. Not sex itself, but the things that go around sex.
Which there are many.
There are two examples that I have that happened, that I have a personal story from a friend of mine, and then something we discussed on the von Hessler Doctrine this week.
Which, I don't like to tie in the other show. I understand, Autumn, that's the only reason people are actually listening to us is because they like the other show.
Maybe.
And I think what you're doing is fine. I just want to be careful. I don't want to be this, we give commentary on that other show. No, that's not what's happening here.
Right. And it was a quick thing that happened during the podcast 30, where I want to get back to this Gillette thing, but we talked about, Jason Momoa. You know who that is?
Is that Aquaman?
Yes, but mostly he's Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones.
Oh, see, I've watched 2 episodes of Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay. Well, he's the head of this more barbaric, animalistic group of people.
Oh, got it. So their killing is, it's a little more graphic and less classy.
It's more like they use horses and these curved swords, and then they'll fight each. Oh, they don't cut their hair. Oh, what is it? Something about their hair being long and it being like they never have lost in a battle. That's why their hair's long. So if their hair's short, then they lose a lot of battles.
Superstition.
And they have sex with their women, doggy style.
Only.
And they kind of rape, they do a lot of raping.
Got it.
It's like part of their culture. So anyway.
And we're allowed to do that.
What?
We're allowed to do that. It's part of our culture.
It's cultural relativism. If you rape in your culture, then maybe that's just your culture.
Got it.
He is the leader of this group, and Khaleesi is sold to him. Her name's not Khaleesi. I forget her real name. Khaleesi means queen, I think, in their language, in Dothraki, and she sort of turns him into this softie, even though he is still really tough. Like, he doesn't rape her. He starts out raping her. Then eventually she teaches him, you don't have to rape me. We could do it in this nice way. So anyway, he's very big and he's very strong and he's very handsome. And I think he's tall and I think he's really hot. And I'm not into, I'm not like boy crazy type of person, but he is super hot. And so we just mentioned him on the von Hessler Doctrine this week. And I was like, yeah, Jason Momoa.
You said it like that.
I was like, ooh, I went, ow. And I said, I bet he could pick me up. And then
he could pick you up with one hand. He'd hold you in the palm of his hand.
No, that means I'm too little. More like, ooh, he could just lift me up. And I think that that's really telling of the way that women think about sexuality and how they view the opposite sex versus men, because I feel like a man would be like, yeah, I want to, stick my finger in her butt,
whoa.
more extreme versus.
Whoa. What you're telling me is that women think differently about sex than men? Is this what you're saying?
I know that a lot of women like to pretend that it's just totally the same, and men
But you're telling me there's a difference between men and women in the way they approach things.
I'm saying it here right now. You can write down the date that yes, men and women are different.
Wow. See, I learned something from this show, and I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
So this is a good start. You've opened up my insight into life.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
I just had to do that. That way someone else can't mock us. Yeah. I beat you to it. 0 stars if I could. Okay.
Yeah.
So
why don't they let me do 0 stars on iTunes for this dumb show where I don't learn anything?
Okay. So continue your thought process. I'm done being snarky.
I just thought that was interesting and a good example of the differences, because I feel like, and I don't know, because I'm not a fly on the wall when it's just men talking about women, even though I do have a lot of male friends. And I feel like I don't know, I'm not friends with dudes that talk like that necessarily. And I'm sure that things get pretty gross when
Well,
it's a bunch of dudes.
It's surprisingly, you would think it would go away as you got older. And with a lot of people, it does. But I
Yeah.
still come across guys sometimes, less so because I'm just not interacting with as many people that I don't know. But every once in a while, you come across a guy like at a party or something, and a conversation will go down that path, and it's still crude. The approach to sex is still this crude idea, and he still is getting some kind of self-worth from it and wants you to say, wow, great job, man. Give me a high five. That does still exist.
Yeah. And it does seem like men get things, right? Like they get sex, they get blowjobs.
That's true. And
Where
then they
women
give it.
Things.
And then they give it. They get it and they give it.
Yeah. I feel like that, yeah. And I don't know if, it's all semantics, but I wonder if that sort of leads itself to a little bit more aggression, or like I said, maybe it's just like I've said it before about like pressing the gas, men are the gas in a lot of situations. Not always. Nothing we say is, an always thing.
All right, well, let's break this down and set it up. So you had this discussion on the show with Eric, and you liked the idea of being held in the palm of Aquaman, or the guy from Game of Thrones, whose name I can't remember.
Jason Momoa.
Yes. And what did you want to explore within this realm?
That there's no man who is thinking of a woman when he's attracted to a woman that he, like a celebrity that he thinks is hot. He's not thinking the same thing as I bet they could pick me up. The thing about being picked up, I think for me, and maybe as a woman or women, maybe it's about, because I don't mean in a romantic way, like he could carry me in a romantic.
No, you want him to manhandle you, is what it sounds like.
Not even man. Just,
that's the way you're presenting it. Big, strong man picks me up like the ape that he is.
Almost like being thrown around the bed, and not in a rough way, but just, oh, he's really strong. And maybe it's a sort of, I can feel helpless, and that can let me be vulnerable.
Yeah, I think there's a safe way to do this, right? So,
and let me just say for the record, when,
for the record, for Travis listening to this, it's okay, honey.
We don't even do that, and I don't care about that necessarily. But when I think about this person, I think about how he could do that and how that's hot.
Well, that's what I meant when Travis is listening. For the record, being a record for Travis, it's okay that we don't do that. I still love you.
No, I don't even want it from him. It's just like it's just a fantasy of him. And that's the other thing. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt what you were going to say, but when women have sex dreams, it's hardly ever about specific people. It's about a faceless man, or just a feeling that they're having that is super sexual. Like, I once had a wet dream, which I've only had 2 in my life. And I don't even know if it should be called a wet dream if you're a girl. But anyway, I had like an orgasm waking up. And it was, I was me, but I was dressed as like a man. I was like in a suit. So I was this masculine energy. And there was this like female statue that I put my hands on and just like went down it with my hands, and not even like in a really fast way. It wasn't even sexy. It was like, and she turned into a lady. And that was my sexy dream.
It's a nice dream.
I feel like men who are having sex dreams, it's because they're having sex.
No, it's not always like that.
No?
I haven't talked to a lot of men about their sex dreams, right? So I don't know. I think that if there's a sex dream that's spoken about by a man to another man, they probably will tell you that kind of dream. But I've had plenty of loving dreams. I had a dream once where I was just in love with a person I didn't know, and I think it was in Chicago. It was set in Chicago for some reason. And we met and we had a very nice day together. And then I woke up and I was very sad that the dream was over. I was like, wow, this person maybe is real. And then I posted a missed connections on Craigslist in Chicago. Not that I really thought there was anyone out there, but I was like, man, let's see who responds. The only people who respond to those things are crazy.
Wait, but that's not a sex dream. Did you?
No, but that's the point. If there didn't need to be sex, I think. If we did have sex within that dream, it wouldn't have been the kind of just going at it, jackhammering sex that I think that you believe men only dream about.
But I mean, you didn't have sex. You didn't.
I didn't need to.
But you didn't. Did you have a wet dream? Was that a wet dream?
Maybe it was an erection dream.
Oh, that's different. I'm talking about like.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you this because I'm trying to set the table that there definitely are differences in the approaches to sex with men and women. But within that, you got a wide spectrum and range. So, settling on what represents what and who falls in what category, I don't know if it's something that's doable. So I was just bringing that up to illustrate the fact that maybe would have turned into a sex dream. Maybe it's not the best because we didn't have sex in the dream.
Yeah.
But if we did, it wouldn't have turned into this porn-style romp. I'm pretty sure about that. And it would have been a very nice dream.
I just feel like my dream was not really sexual. It just contained nudity. And I was like a man for some reason. Whereas I think a man who has a wet dream is having sex in that dream. And I don't mean what you're saying about like jackhammering and all that. I don't know. It doesn't have to be rough and crazy and extreme. It could just be, we're definitely doing it. Whereas I think women can have that kind of sensation, but not have, it could just be like a feeling that you're having. Like you were describing with that other one, but I don't think that counts.
It could have led there. Maybe we would have held hands walking up the steps to a museum, and that would have been it. Who knows? I don't know. I didn't get there. I woke up and the dream ended and it broke my heart because it was the first time I had true love in my life.
It was just in that dream.
And then I tried to find the person on Craigslist.
That makes me think of Eric's story about huffing gasoline or whatever he said when he was younger. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and then he knew the meaning of life but passed out.
And forgot.
Yeah.
That's like your dream. It's like you had true love, but then you woke up.
So I feel like you're trying to figure something out here, and I just want to have a better grasp. We can go back.
I think what it is I don't know. Like you said in the beginning, that men and women are very different, and their approaches to this are very different. But we shouldn't be looking at the other approach as wrong or stupid or weak or too aggressive.
Well, there are again tiers to this. Mm-hmm. You're talking about Mimosa Samoa. What's his name?
Yeah. Jason Momoa.
Momoa. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not getting his name wrong on purpose because I'm trying to prove some point because I'm jealous of him. Maybe that's what I'm doing.
You do like to do that.
That's what I don't know your name, good-looking man who
Jason
is
Mimosa.
better than me in every single way. What can I do? I just won't remember your name.
Gotcha.
No, but the idea behind this of having a man come in and take some kind of control, right? Mm-hmm. And borderline rough, maybe you even get into the rough. That's fine if that's what you want and what he wants, and the discussion has been had and everyone's cool. What's wrong is that at some point, men have said, this is what women want. I have the right to go forward and do this because that's, of course, what they want. They want a man to take control. And yes, I do think there's definitely something to be said about women wanting men to take control. It extends outside of sex, I would assume, because you have someone who's taking control in the bedroom, in life. There is a level of protection, especially because you are vulnerable and intimate in a bedroom, and if it's going down that path where the guy's taking control, but he's also protective of you, that says a lot. Like that's, I feel like
interesting.
I feel like that would be comforting for a woman.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But you get into the territory where dudes just do it and don't see anything wrong with it. Like if someone said, no, stop that. No, what do you mean, no? Because
at that point, but they're not being protected, like you said.
Yeah.
It's like during sex, there needs to be this exchange of, I'm in charge here, maybe, but I'm also going to protect you. Like, I'm not going to do anything that's going to hurt you, or I'm not going to go too far because you're not going to like that. But there are people who do go too far and think that's good.
Yeah, you're safe with me. ultimately is what it boils
that's
down to. And I think, you're talking about how neither is right or wrong. But with men, and I think the reason it does get thrown onto men more so is because, first off, men are bigger physically. So you can take control of a woman,
Yeah.
Well, you can in a bad way, in like a violent type of way. And also, it is, as you already mentioned, a man receives or gives. He's giving it. There's a level of control there and power that just by the dynamics of sex and the organs and the way they work, I think is why it comes in naturally. So, those two things should be responsibilities that fall onto men that they shouldn't just.
He took my virginity. Took it.
Yeah. I mean,
I gave him my virginity.
Though I do think, the first time I had sex, she had
Dudes
sex.
lose it. Guys lost their virginity.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I was going to say, that's very true. I was going to say, no, you're right. I was just trying to think of how I would phrase it because she wasn't a virgin, but I was. And I would have said, I guess I lost my virginity to her.
Right.
Not that she took it.
You wouldn't say I gave her my virginity or.
But I think that's very representative of the dynamic. That is, it's ridiculous. Why does the man get to take it? I took it from her.
Right.
I don't like that. I don't like that structure. And I think, a lot of the times when we talk about my interest in sex, it's developed from this extreme nature that being around men and the way men have acted and the high-fiving and the way they demean women and something I have no interest in. And that should be enough. Like, I can say something to them, not cool, and I don't want to have anything to do with people like that because I don't need to be their friends. But me, I take it to such the other extreme. I've got to prove to everyone that I'm nothing like these people. And then you go to the other side of it, and it's like, well, whatever. I don't really even care. I also think it's because, I've taken opiate painkillers, and it hijacks your reward system, and it's like, why all that work for sex when you could just take a pill? Why would you do that? That's another part of it, and there's intimacy and stuff like that. But just to stick to this conversation, I think that's the reason I go to the other extreme, because there is a level that I think there's a line that it crosses with men's behavior. And I don't know why it needs to be viewed as an attack against men by saying, don't be a dick. Come on, just stop doing that.
Yeah, and even when I brought it up on the doctrine, Eric responded with, and maybe he's just joking around, because the conversations we have on the air versus the ones we have in person are different. But he even responded with a kid can't go outside and get another kid in a headlock,
Is that what anyone's saying? This is based on that Gillette commercial, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
There's some kids roughhousing, I think, from what I recall.
And it looks like it's getting too much. Like one kid is dominating over the other. And so there's a guy, one dad who says, boys will be boys. And then somebody else comes in or maybe it's the same guy later on in this commercial after we've learned that maybe this isn't the way to go anymore. He goes over to the kids and says, hey, we don't treat each other like that. It's not cool.
Yeah. And if it's just two boys roughhousing and they're in it together, I understand. Like even me, I'm like, all right, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It does cross over. And I know that, saying bullying now is something that's frowned upon because the term has been hijacked. But bullying's a real thing in school.
Yes.
And, the weakest ones are usually bullied because there's a whole chain of command with bullying. Someone bullies someone and that person can't bully that person back, so they find someone weaker and they bully that person. And it continues on. And that kind of behavior, if I'm an adult and I see that happening, it's like, yes, say something. I don't see the problem in that. And let's say that Gillette went too far in the commercial with the boys roughhousing on the lawn and the dad says, no. Okay. Even if that goes too far, it doesn't mean you get to dismiss the whole message of the thing.
Right. Yeah.
All right. They maybe took a step too far, but I think I didn't hear the show. So let's talk about that. Obviously they talked about the Gillette commercial. What was the reaction?
they thought it was an attack on men. And even Jared was like, I guess I'm not a Gillette man anymore.
It's just, why is it an attack on men? I don't
Because it's
understand
trying
it.
to say that men are inherently bad. And what you are passing down to your sons is also inherently bad. And you don't even know you're doing it. And here's examples of you doing it, saying boys will be boys, or, catcalling at girls. Like, that's part of the problem.
Catcalling at women should not happen at all. It
Right.
should not be something that is acceptable. And I don't know who's defending it. Who is defending catcalling?
I don't know if anyone is out there defending that part of the commercial necessarily. It's just part of the commercial that's bothering them. The commercial as a whole.
Yeah, I watched this thing and I took no offense. And again, I know that it pushes it to the point where people nitpick and they pick the parts that are like, yeah, see, look at the... Okay, you may have a valid point about part of that commercial, but overall the message is something that's not a negative thing. It's
Right.
like, yes, you as an adult and a man, you have influence over boys around you, your kids and their friends if they come over. I don't understand why people are so offended. I don't feel like anyone's trying to rip anything away from me. It's really just don't be a jerk and be respectful.
Yeah. Even to your friends who are also roughhousing with you. If you feel like it's too much, if you're looking, I feel like, it's just a commercial and they're doing what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I have thoughts on that in a minute.
The real world situation would be, a couple different things. It could be across the spectrum of a guy being like, well, boys will be boys, or the one going over and saying, yeah, we don't do that. Or it could just be like, hey, Joey, are you okay? I'm okay. And then they keep going, to make sure everyone's cool with this. You guys are rough. You guys are being rough with each other, but are you both in on it? Yes. Okay. You just check on them.
Yeah.
You don't have to go down and I don't know. And Eric is so weird about people's feelings, like talking about people's feelings about things.
In the way that he thinks that
feelings are dealt with when people care about other people's feelings.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's as extreme as he finds feelings to be a sign of weakness, but there does seem to be just repress those, push those down, and man up, and just go on with life.
He thinks that you can prioritize your feelings, and you can in some ways, but there are some that maybe build up on each other and create something worse than if you had just dealt with it originally.
No, yes. You repress feelings to the point where they're going to manifest in one way or another. Right. And usually it's not a good thing. I think a lot of people, especially logical, smart people, have problems with feelings because they don't follow logic all the time. But
feelings don't.
Yeah, feelings don't. But they should, because while they don't maybe fit in the rules of logic, they are logical in the sense that they happen naturally. That's like maybe one of the most logical things. It's like, I understand maybe in this situation I am angry and it is kind of ridiculous for what things are, but I'm not wrong for feeling that way. It's what you do after that really is what's important. If you get angry in a situation and it is ridiculous, and someone tells you, don't be angry, you're wrong for being angry. Right. That just makes it worse. And it's also wrong to dismiss it like that, because the person isn't wrong for feeling angry. Now, if they get angry and it's a ridiculous thing and they smash things and scream at you, and okay, now we cross into a different territory. And it's like, you had the feeling's justified. That reaction is not. That is ridiculous. That's not an acceptable behavior.
Well, and the redeeming thing about Eric is that he does care about people. He cares about, you. He cares about the person he's talking to. And if he does something, or if they are feeling a certain way, he might disagree on whether you should feel that way or whether it's important enough to feel any kind of way or for it to affect you. But he does care about you and that you are feeling something.
But that's still, yes, you're right, but that's still the wrong way to approach it. Is it justified to feel that way?
Well, he's not somebody that I would go to if I was having a ton of feelings.
Because he would tell you, get rid of those feelings.
Well, he might try and fix it instead of just letting those feelings happen.
Yeah,
which is fine. That's what a lot of people do.
I think that's what a lot of people do. What?
A lot of people, and I find I have to check myself to not do it, which is just let the person feel those things instead of trying to come up with a solution for how to not feel that way anymore.
Yeah, you just want support.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, just listen to me. I'm aware that these feelings are kind of goofy, but I just want to not feel like I'm alone with them. And
Right.
let me process them. I'll get through this.
I feel like a lot of times too, if you acknowledge the feelings for the other person and, sort of say, wow, that must be really difficult or that seems hard, then, but you are like, for me, I want to give advice or whatever. So I want to try and give advice. And so I won't, so I try not to, and I acknowledge the feelings. And then eventually the advice is asked for because they're safe enough to ask for the advice because you've let them feel something.
Yeah, and also if you try to tell someone, give someone advice right away, you're making it about yourself.
Yeah.
You really are. And it's not maybe directly and maliciously, but you're making it about yourself in the sense like, I've got the answer for you.
I know.
Listen
I
to
do
me.
feel like I have the answers. Don't you? Do you feel that way?
I do feel like I can give advice to people, but like you said, let them ask for it. If they come to you and ask you for advice right up front, sure, give it. If someone comes to you and is just upset and wants to talk to you, just listen. And going back, and I think this all ties together for our topic today. Because the way it is approached with men, it's different. It is dismissive a lot of the times, and I don't understand why feelings are viewed as weak. I'm one of the most logical people out there, and even within the emotional realm, I try to explain it by logic, and that's kind of the way I process it. I don't feel weak for feeling. I think I felt vulnerable in the past for feeling, and that's why I wouldn't necessarily share certain things with people.
And that's because you were brought up in this toxic environment of masculinity.
See, but even calling it that, it does go too far, and I see why people rail against it. This toxic environment. It's not all toxic.
Yeah.
There are gender roles. Those things exist, and there are times that I feel men need to put aside their feelings and just do something. And this applies for all people, but we're talking about like traditionally the dynamics of families and stuff. I think there are times like, yes, there was something to be said about get rid of the feelings right now. Just go do this thing. You have to do it because it was for the good of everyone else. But it doesn't mean that it's somehow a weakness in someone who has the opportunity to express their feelings because they don't have to go, kill some animals and find food.
Right.
If it's a situation, it's like, I got to get food for my family, but I'm feeling like this right now. And you don't go, okay, fine. I get that. But in disagreements, I'm sure you've dealt with this a lot as a woman, and you can tell me. I feel like men are very dismissive if they're in a relationship with a woman, when all you would have to do is if she brings up her feelings, is acknowledge them. And then you could still say your piece and bring up your point.
I think it's about feeling heard.
Yes.
I need you and seen. I need you to see me and I need you to hear me. And when you're in an argument with a lady, the argument may continue because she's not feeling like you are hearing her. You might start on the defensive because you're taking it personally. And maybe it is about you personally, but she might be complaining about you, but that really might come from something else, from herself or the way she was brought up, or
maybe there really is something about you and it's okay. Why don't you just accept, okay, when you dismiss a person because they don't like something that you're doing or it's affecting them in a certain way, it's I just assume it shuts the person down, and then, as you said, they repress all those feelings, and then they will come out in some other way, and then the relationship is really going to bad places. If you can't sit there and just take a little bit of criticism and look at it honestly, I was like, yeah, you know what, that is right. And then you talk about, if it's not something you can fix, you try to compromise about it or make an effort. But the dismissal right up front, it's not going anywhere.
And those are the same type of men who are going to dismiss your feelings in the bedroom, ladies.
You think so? I mean, sure, right? But that is a real thing. There's so much worth, I think, tied to sex, especially with men. The number of women, how good you are.
Well, don't you think some of that's biological?
Maybe the number, but if nobody talked about the number, then no, you wouldn't care.
But the drive is there to have sex for men.
Yeah, the drive is there to have sex and spread your DNA, right? Mm-hmm. But I think
and get rid of other guys' DNA.
Yeah, some of that is built in, sure, but because there's so much worth though tied to sex that if a woman brings something up in the bedroom that they like, and the guy isn't even necessarily expected to know, especially if it's early on in a relationship, for some reason, it's like a shot against them and bruises their ego. And I don't understand that either.
Is that real? Because I feel like we're sort of taught that men don't know how to do anything, and so you have to help them. You have to know your own body, and then you have to teach them.
Is that true?
Yeah, because, okay, so on Loveline, they describe men's sexuality.
I love that you've... I'm not dismissing Loveline. Uh-huh. I think there's a lot to be learned, but it was like really formed you. A lot of your
It really has. I listen to it all the time. It's so good. Men's sexuality is a cockpit with a joystick in the middle, and that's how you fly the plane. Just a joystick. And a women's sexuality is a cockpit filled with buttons and dials and different things, and every cockpit you walk into is different, so you don't know how to fly any plane you walk into. So I think that's important and only you, the woman, know how to fly your own plane, and you have to teach the man how to fly your plane.
I agree with that. I think, yes, there's a lot to learn. And even if you learn the basic functions, as you said, each woman is different.
Yeah.
And has different controls. And I was bringing up the point that I feel, though, a lot of men take that as a slight. Like they're supposed to know everything. And if they don't know everything, oh my God, what if word got out?
Right.
I would be ruined.
That's true, because then if someone did something weird to me, I 100% talk about it with my girlfriends.
We know that. We know that everyone talks about sex. And I think, though, that is part of the pressure is in the bedroom, you're supposed to know everything. A woman tells you that she likes this. Not every man does this. It doesn't bother me. I'm happy to listen and learn because the goal is you're enjoying this too. It's not just me. I would actually rather you enjoy it more than I do. Because in the end, if it is, again, there's a biological drive for it. But, if it's connecting with a partner, you should really care about them having a good time. So if their time was better than yours, I actually would be happy. I'm like, yeah, good.
It's more about connection because, for men maybe a little different, but I know like women can have sex and not orgasm and still enjoy sex.
Yes.
Whereas men, if they didn't have an orgasm, they're like, why am I going to have sex if I'm not having an orgasm?
Is that real, by the way? Like, I know that women say that, and I do believe it, but that part does kind of blow my mind still.
Only if you feel connected with. If you feel like the person is just there for themselves and you're not having the orgasm, then you're like, what's happening? But if you are having a connected experience, but you're not having the orgasm, then you're like, it's okay.
Yeah, and with casual sex, I think that's why I never really got into it so much. And people who do, I have no problems with it. But it takes time to learn the person that you're with and what they like. So if you're going in for a one-night stand, it really is kind of what you already know from other partners, and you can try to apply that, and it's about yourself. And I don't see the fun as being a guy, by default, there is a level of control where if it's a one-night stand, it's like, I'm probably going to get off, and it'll be fine for me. But I never liked the idea of it not being okay for the other person. And you're confirming that, if there's no connection, it probably really isn't that fun for the woman. But they could just be having like a fun, sexy time and not... Well, that's what I was going to ask. So, you've had casual sex with people in one-night stands, and I'm sure there's a range of good and bad.
Yeah.
But going into that, is there, was it ultimately worth it if you're not getting off?
Yeah, I think, you know how women talk about if you watch porn, like sometimes the sex in porn is not as fun as the beginning. Not the story where it's like, you know, she's a student and she's looking, I mean, that's dumb. But just for me, at least, sometimes the beginning is better, like where they're still clothed, you know, and they're just like touching and stuff. Like, I think that sometimes that's better than when they actually, because sometimes they like the beginning is nice and interesting. And then they just like cut and everybody's naked and it's like gynecology. You know,
Yeah.
I don't like that. That's too much. And sometimes that's the way that sort of casual sex can be, where you're like, I like all this making out part and like the touching and the grabbing and like the sort of, that's fun. And then the sex part is like, all right, well now the sex is for him. This part's for him because I got to do all this other stuff. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. With casual sex, there is more of that up front because
he's not going to get me to orgasm. He doesn't know what to do with me.
But outside that, because it is someone new and that part's exciting, there tends to be more making out and, you know, lead up to sex, where when you are in a relationship for a while, sometimes like, all right, let's just do this. And you jump straight to sex, right?
Yeah, you're not like making out in a theater anymore, like at the movies. Like you can't stop. You only want to kiss them forever. You're not doing that with your longtime partners.
No, which is a shame because it hasn't been like that with everyone I've dated. But when I've had relationships where it's like, let's sneak off and let's just go make out right now.
Oh, yeah.
And much older than maybe I should have been. Again, I don't really mean that.
No, Travis and I like snuck off in a hotel. We were staying with friends in a hotel, like on the floor. And it was a bunch of people in the room. And so we ran off into like beside the pool. You know, like in a towel closet because we couldn't handle ourselves. We had to be with each other.
There's a fix that you need.
But now it'd be like, get out of here. I'm not doing this in a towel closet. Are you crazy?
There is a fix. I would actually like to point that out. And this is a different topic, but just an aside which ties into this. That same feeling that you get when you meet someone new and you have to be around them and have to. That ties into drug use. Like that's why when people I would just stop. I'd just quit.
Oh, interesting.
It's kind of the same thing. It's like you can't just quit like that. Like there's such a pull. Your brain, wants to be flooded with these endorphins, and when it knows they exist and it knows there's a way to get it, it's very difficult. And again, that's a different topic.
I've heard it described like addiction described as, when you don't eat, you are so driven to eat. Or like when you're on a diet and you've cut things out of your diet, you really want those things. And it's kind of like that where it's not exactly like the diet thing, but more like a biological need. Like it tricks your brain into thinking this is something we must have, like food or water or something.
No, your brain has ways of, really pushing to get what it wants.
Yeah.
At times. And I think the food thing, I've never really been starving, so I can't compare.
Yeah, exactly.
But it makes sense to me. But to get back to the topic here, I feel like what we're talking about, there's so much sensitivity involved, an ego, and people need to protect themselves. And that's all they're all trying to do is grasp for control and protecting their own feelings. That a lot of these misunderstandings come from that. And I'm talking about earlier in the show how it's not, a good thing to act in a complete extreme manner. So, when I'm talking about being around men who talk about sex in a way that I don't like and they're demeaning towards women, that the right move isn't to just go to the complete other side. It's like, I'm never going to have sex just to prove I'm nothing like those men. I feel like that's what happens with things like this stupid Gillette commercial. Like people, instead of just taking it for what it is and saying, yeah, there's some parts I agree with and there's parts that I don't agree with, and outside of the Gillette commercial, we're just using this because it has become like a microcosm of this whole bigger conversation. I don't know why people have to dig in their heels and they can't actually just look at this thing and say, yeah, you know what? Some of this behavior is not cool and men shouldn't have been doing it. And so what if they've been doing it for decades? Like catcalling, I bring this up again though. I don't understand how anyone could even defend catcalling.
Now, when women have been known to catcall men.
Yes, that's another side of this that I think you want to explore, right?
Yes, I do. First, before we go there, I do want to say, if any of you are listening, have been offended or are offended by the Gillette commercial, I think you should sit with those feelings and think about why you're feeling them. Not to say that you don't have the right to feel them, which is what we talked about earlier in this show. It's like, feel whatever you want. But even though we know that it's just a razor company, so who cares? They're just trying to make money.
That's the thing that angers me the most, but finish your thought.
Right. That just because we know that that's true, the bigger conversation is not something that we don't need or doesn't need to be talked about. And the message is what we're talking about, not the commercial itself. Like the commercial, who cares? It's just about razors. But the message itself is interesting to think about. And it's not like it's not like anyone is saying, well, some people are saying this, but mostly people are not saying to give up being masculine. It's more about be masculine, but also don't take those parts of masculinity that are mean or could lead to other people or excuse people being mean.
Yeah, or demeaning. There's no need for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I don't understand why people are so offended by it. It's like, it's not saying give up being a man, whatever that means for you. I think you get to decide what that means.
Right.
But the moment it makes someone else feel like shit, it's probably not the way to be a man.
Right. And I watched the commercial. I didn't really go into it thinking, here we go. It's going to change my life. I didn't know what it really was. I was like, what is this? I watched it. And by the end I was crying. But you know what that means? Or you know what that doesn't mean? It doesn't mean I'm going to go out tomorrow and make sure I buy Gillette razors. I don't give a fuck what kind of razors I buy.
That's the thing with this. Okay, I want to get into this quickly. We can go back to the catcalling thing. Yeah. But the Gillette thing, and in general, people are like, screw Gillette. You're so lucky to be in a position where your life allows you to burn or throw away or crush whatever you're doing because you're opposed to Gillette $40 razors. It's like, right, your life's pretty good. No one's really coming after you. They're not trying to take away your quality of living or your standard of living. And on the other side, the people applauding, like, oh, Gillette. Gillette has hijacked what they see as an opportunity to make money, which right now is social justice. They see this and like, this, people are on board with this, and it does.
It's the best a man can get.
Yeah, but all they're doing is trying to make money. So the people on the other side, like, Gillette, yes, they do not care. They don't care at all. They're opportunistic capitalists. And that's what it is. And we don't even need to. I'm not saying that's bad, trying to make money. I just want people to look at it for what it is. It is a razor company.
Buy Gillette if it's on sale.
Yeah. That's
it.
Yeah.
Buy it if you feel like it's a good razor. Buy it if you think it's on sale. Don't buy it if you think it's too expensive. That's what it comes, or if you don't think it's of good quality. That's what it comes down to.
No, Gillette's not the torchbearer and the progressive movement. If that's your thing, if that's what they're not the torchbearer. All they're doing. And the
people responding with like, but look, they put Gillette all over those hot girls' butts, and look,
that sums up the point.
The blue razors are for men, and the pink razors are for women. Like that's neither here nor there.
No, that sums up the point. They're just trying to make money. At the time, there was a time when like the Man Show and even the regular guys with Eric and things like that. That was hot stuff. That sold, and like men like this kind of thing. So what did they do? They marketed towards those people to get their money. And I think that's what's happening here. So,
and then on that side of the coin, it doesn't mean that Gillette were trying to like monetize women's bodies. They were just trying to make money.
Yeah, like we have shareholders. We got to keep happy. How can we continue our growth?
It didn't mean that they thought that women were less than. It was just like, this works in surveys for what works. So we're going to do that.
And those things, by the way, whether or not you believe that women should be thrown in scantily clad outfits to sell products, those women, it's just a tough thing to say, because I understand that people are looking for breaks in their careers, but they chose to go do that and dress up in this clothing.
Like Muslim women that you forced into a bikini.
No, they chose to do it.
Get in my Gillette commercial.
And I understand that, there are parts of entertainment that dictate the way a woman should look. And if you lose those looks, then maybe your career's over, and, no matter how talented you are. But this is low level. I want to just maybe be famous. I don't think any of these people were trying to be serious actors. And they were given an opportunity to do something that they wanted to do, and they chose to do it.
Right. So, the catcalling thing.
Yes. We can wrap it up with that.
Yes. So this brings me to my friend Michelle, who owns this business, hoffandpepper.com, which is this really amazing, great, wonderful hot sauce that you should get.
A woman owns a business?
Well, it's with her husband, so she's allowed. Her daddy helped her sign a loan. No. She works in a mostly female environment. There's one man, and they, in their office or in their work, they do a lot of talking to him about sex. They ask him very open questions, kind of personal questions about his penis, about what he likes in sex. And that brings me to the catcalling thing too, where women in this environment, there's no threat when it comes to women talking to men about sex. When a man talks to a woman about sex, especially if it were turned around, where if it were a mostly male group talking to this one female employee about, what do you like? What do you, that is, there is a double standard because the context is different. And that's the same thing as the catcalling. If a woman is catcalling a man, it's way less creepy because the woman is not going to maybe then, a group of female construction workers are not going to then corner that guy in the alley, be like, did you like that?
Yeah, and no, there's
not to say that every catcaller is a predator. It's more that is an option for those people. They might not even thought to do it, but that woman might think that might happen, and so then it's scary.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, and that goes back to just men being bigger physically.
Right.
If it were reversed and the women were catcalling, there's the biological function where maybe but still, it's like, I don't know, that it would be scary at that point for the man if the woman could physically overpower the man. But the way it does exist, and most of the guys catcalling probably aren't going to do anything. They're not going to hurt physically the woman.
Right.
But
they're just showing off for their people they work with.
Yeah, and they are aggressive with the catcalling sometimes if they don't get the reaction that they want. Mm-hmm. Because then it hurts their ego, I think. And then they've got to stand up and show what a man they are. But yes, even if a guy follows a woman down the sidewalk for half a block and continues it, that is scary because you don't know. That guy could force her into a position. I'm not saying that he's going to jump right to raping her, but that's really what it boils down to. A man being more powerful could rape a woman, and that's scary. And that's why I do not see how anyone can defend catcalling. You can say that's a stretch. That's like point A to point Z with several points in between.
Right.
But that's a real thing. And again, if it scares someone, if it affects someone's life negatively, why can't you just say, okay, I won't do it? I don't know why. And the double standard with women, if a woman catcalls, which does rarely happen, but I know it happens. If I were catcalled,
well, especially if there's a bunch of drunk bachelorette, group or something,
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, there was a night where we were at a bar and there was a group like that, and a woman sat next to me, and she was very aggressive with me, talking about wanting to make out with me and then taking me back to her hotel. And she grabbed my hair and pulled it at one point. And look, it's I didn't feel scared in the sense that something harmful was going to happen to me.
If that were reversed, if that was a man going over to a woman.
No, I know. It is.
That would have been assault.
Yeah, and it's still, I guess if I wanted to push, it could have been assault.
Right.
But there is a double standard. Hopefully at some point, I do think that everyone should live by the same standard. And the rule that I applied is if a person tells you, leave me alone, you should probably just leave them alone. And I told her, I was like, leave me alone. I'm not interested. But the reason it goes that far and they can get away with more is, as we've stated already, is there's no real sense of bodily harm at that point for me.
Right.
Doesn't mean that.
You're not scared.
Yeah, like a woman, I guess, could pull out a knife and stab me. But, what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do? It's like, there it is. It ended. If only I let her pull my hair and let her take me back to her Hampton.
Hotel room.
Yeah, Hampton
You should have
Inn.
done it. What were you wearing that night, Greg?
I don't remember. Probably just some
Maybe
kind
it was
of
your fault.
plaid shirt.
Oh.
But then
See?
the women you bring up in the workplace asking personal sexual questions. That's another. You see this in comedy, at least with women for a while. I think that was a way just to get to the level. It's like we're not supposed to talk about these things, and there's a sense of rebellion there, an act of rebellion. It's like we're not going to talk about sex in any graphic nature, or I'm not going to ask a man about such things. And I think that's strangely a way to try to level the playing field, if that makes sense, with women.
I wonder, do you mean like that's why women do it
Well, I think
in the workplace?
I think talking about it, and then like men cannot talk like that to women in the workplace, probably amongst each other anymore, in case someone overhears. But
Right.
you can't talk to a woman like that in the workplace. It's the end of you. In the workplace, it could be the end. I guarantee, if it's a corporate setting of some sort, it's the end of the woman too. If the guy goes and says something to HR, they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna make an exception. Say, well, it's different. But I think the
No.
reason women do it was, at least initially, it was, well, men do it, so why shouldn't we do it?
See, maybe. I just feel like, at least for them, they're doing it because they're a bunch of women and they're all talking. And now we have a man here to ask questions.
Yeah,
Like we don't have to wonder why something, like why a man might do this, or I wonder if he likes that. We can just ask this man.
well, I mean, if it's matter of fact like that, yeah, and it's really informational.
You like it? You like to have in the butt, like that kind of thing. So you wouldn't be able to talk like that to a woman if it were a bunch of men.
No, and it's informational, really, at that point. I do believe that a woman would ask a question for an actual answer more so than a man who would ask a question to try to gauge, if he could have sex with the woman.
Yeah, the reasoning behind it is to the man is gauging whether is she into it?
Yeah.
Would she let me do that?
I'm
and we're like, no, I don't want to have sex with you. I just want to ask you tons of questions about sex.
Yeah, I mean there's many dynamics, and it's too hard to pinpoint motives with these things. But I think overall, in certain situations, you have to just group people under an umbrella, whether or not everyone falls under that umbrella, which is why things are shut down. It's like, look, majority of men are asking these questions. 90%, they're just trying to get in the pants of the woman. 10% actually wanted to learn something.
Right.
But I can't control that. So we got.
Well, and she talks about how when their company and if and when the company does get bigger, this kind of thing will have to stop. They can't do this forever.
Yeah.
And they said that they would all have champagne in a boardroom when there's, they've sold their company, and they'll talk dirty again because they can, because it's only the 6 of them left,
Yeah, at the end with the champagne, and then they can, go all out and catcall each other and have the orgy on the boardroom table.
Finally.
Yeah, that's why I started a business, because one day I wanted to sell it and have an orgy with all the people that helped me start it.
What was interesting was, they do a lot of physical work. They're making gallons and gallons of hot sauce every day. And, she and another female employee can do the same things that their one male employee can do, but he can do it for longer and he doesn't get hurt. Whereas they feel, the amount of work they're having to do, where he's like, this is fine. It doesn't affect him. And so they were hiring another employee that needed to be a man. They said, we need to hire another man to do this physical work. And again, that brings up the differences between men and women, and how you're not supposed to, you're only supposed to get the person who's right for the job. Maybe it is a woman, but probably not for this physical work, No,
and I think that's a fair distinction, and equality is something I am all for. But yes, there's certain situations a woman can go work out and grow a lot of muscles.
Right.
And
grow muscles.
Well, yeah, you build them, right? You grow
Yeah,
them.
you plant the seed and you water your muscles.
You grow them. I mean, by eating and working out, there's a growth there. But
I guess.
I've
never heard someone say grow your muscles.
I mean, I thought about it before I said it. It's like, I don't think that's the proper way to phrase it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I think build muscles.
Yeah, you build them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bodybuilder.
Yeah, it's fine.
Ooh, do you hate that?
What?
Is that like walkie-talkie? Bodybuilder?
No, body.
Because I'm building my body.
Bodybuilder. No, because the E on body that's not.
Oh, I know. I just thought maybe it was too like on the nose. Bodybuilder. I'm building my body.
No, that one doesn't bother me.
Okay.
That's fine. It's
Okay,
just
go ahead,
it's just
sorry.
tacking the
Oh,
eye.
I took us back. People have strong bodies.
Meh.
Men have strong bodies, and they
Yeah.
didn't do a good job.
There. Well, I mean, this was a less specific topic. It allowed us to,
Yeah.
roam. I think, though, I would say that we stayed on a topic. I don't know if whatever things you were thinking leading into this when you introduced the topic, any beliefs or thoughts or questions. I don't know if it was satisfied
No, it's good.
by our discussion. Because the thing is, it's so nuanced. There is so much stuff that trying to weed out the extreme behavior that's not good and it hurts other people. What's the problem? Do that. There's still plenty of room to play with once you're into it.
Play with.
That's what you took from it, huh? Yeah. Can always count on you, Autumn. Trying to make serious points here, and you're like, play with. Smell my finger. All right, well, take us out.
All right. I don't know how we end it. I like to end it with thanks for listening to One Topic. I want to push our social media. You can find me everywhere at Autopritz, Pritts. We're also on Podbean. I don't know if you're already listening. I don't know. You can find that on Podbean. One Topic, search for that. I want to please say sorry again because my voice is crazy and maybe my head was not as clear as I would like it to be because my body is attacking me through my eyes and in my throat. I don't know what's going on with my head, but my body is against me. But Greg, we can't find you online anywhere at all?
No, I mean, I just post on Eric's Facebook every once in a while. That's about it at this point. Okay. And then we tell people to rate and review our show. Give us 0 stars if you could. It's not an option. Too bad.
Don't do that.
well,
only 5 stars.
I'd give it 0 stars if I could. This show deserves half a star.
But yeah, do all that so iTunes will see us. And oh god.
Yeah, your head's not there. I'm gonna let
It's gone.
I'm gonna let you flounder on this one.
I don't know where to go. Can we edit this part?
Nope. This is staying in. This is part of it. You were there. I think you had a good out, but then
I know. I really, because there's not like a thing to end it. I want to always end it with like time is a construct. I really like the idea.
Thanks for listening.
I know.
Say it. Say it.
Thanks for listening.
There you go.
That can't be the end.
That's the end.
No, we need like a phrase or something.
We don't need a phrase. I'm sick of get off my lawn.
I don't want to get off my lawn, but maybe like death is inevitable. Like I like the death is inevitable, time is a construct. It does not tie into our show at all.
No, all right, but that's for a future episode.
It's for what?
We can figure that out for a future episode.
Okay. Thanks for listening to One Topic. See you next week.
Very good. I like that.
I gotta come up with something better.
That was funny though for the end.
Okay. Man, I really lost it at the end.